So we believe that all economic activity across capital markets, gaming, social coordination, and even global services is moving on chain. And our mission is to build a more democratic and efficient digital economy to make sure or ensure that this massive transformation remains open, fair, and scalable. And Talus basically serves as the missing infrastructure to make all this happen.
Yo, GM. Today I'm joined by the guys behind Talus, a modular agent infrastructure stack built for crypto native AI. Talus lets anyone spin autonomous agents with custom workflows, run them on chain, and monetize them with primitives, and it's all powered by Nexus. They're purpose built orchestrators and deployed on Sui to turn on into an AI chain. This is BlockHunters Voices, the podcast where cool kids from the blockchain space. I'm Joachim Vuji, your host. Ben, Mike, welcome guys. Great to have you on.
Thank you, man. It's great to be here, and finally we made it happen.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, I'm really curious. Mike, I met you like 2 years ago at IT Denver, but I want to know a little bit about your background. What did you guys do before Talus? What did you do before crypto? How did you end up in the AI X crypto space?
Yeah, so I studied in LA at USC, did a master's in applied data science, and then I started working blockchains at a DeFi startup, and that's where it clicked. AI, blockchains. There's a lot of potential here. You could build better applications. You can make the digital economy much more efficient, and that's where I started Talus. And then that's where I also met Ben, brought him onto the team, and we built the company together.
And before we go any deeper, can you explain Talus to someone who has never heard of it? What does it do, and why does it matter for the space right now?
So we believe that all economic activity across capital markets, gaming, social coordination, and even global services is moving on chain. And our mission is to build a more democratic and efficient digital economy to make sure or ensure that this massive transformation remains open, fair, and scalable. And Talus basically serves as the missing infrastructure to make all this happen.
And you guys wanted to start with these agents. Why not just build AI tooling or just the infra?
The main reason is because when you build the infra or the underlying backbone, you're able to empower people to build more agents and actually empower them to build business models on top of any type of platform. And what we wanted to do was to enable anybody that would come and use Nexus or framework or the Talus Network to bring verifiable on-chain execution and bring what we call the brain and the brain for thinking and the hand for executing all these different strategies, applications, and empowering or improving the space of the applications that you could build on blockchains.
So basically, Nexus is the core of your stack. And what exactly is it? Why did you build it from scratch instead of just using existing orchestrators?
Yes, that's a very good question. I don't know, Ben, if you want to take this.
Yeah, so that's a good question. I think that the idea that we had, the experiment that we wanted to run in combining crypto and AI in creating Web3 agents was, could you have cryptographic guarantees around the agentic workflow itself, so make the agent decentralized, and then could you provide economic guarantees or other kinds of guarantees around tool provision and the AI inputs? So, when you read the Nexus white paper, we talk about why we settled on this this intersection of having off-chain AI and then on-chain agent. And we looked at different types of how you can classify different systems, different AI systems. So you have one that's entirely centralized. Everything is happening in one centralized server. You have something where the query is coming from off-chain, and then you have an interface with the chain, like a wallet. So a virtual agent, for instance, you give it access to an EOA on Base, and then those private keys are stored in the same database that the agentic workflow lives. And this isn't very secure. This isn't decentralized at all. And then on the far end of the spectrum, you have something where, in the future, maybe a model could be on chain, or you could you could verify all inference on chain. Having the model be on chain, I think, would be the ultimate version of a decentralized agent. Right now, with resource constraints, compute constraints, and timing, a speed of execution, this really just is not possible. So we were very intentional in choosing this intersection of having AI be off-chain, having inference be generated off-chain, and then have the workflow be on-chain. An explicit, transparent workflow that lives on the blockchain, can be executed in a very fast execution environment, which for us is Sui Move. And then the role that Talus serves is we sit in between those two things. We sit in between the on-chain workflows and inference that's generated off-chain by a model. So when a Nexus workflow emits its workflow, it triggers an off-chain LLM, for instance, and then we port the inference from off-chain to the on-chain inflow to direct some sort of on-chain action, whether that's in DeFi, whether that's for some sort of entertainment use case, whether that's for on-chain governance.
So basically, as a TLDR, the way that you choose this hybrid on-chain, off-chain is purely because of the speed execution, right?
Well, there were multiple variables to balance there, right? Like I said, the ultimately decentralized agent, and one day when we can crank compute, as far as we
you need that
compute
power that we don't have today.
Well, yeah, it's just not possible right now to have a model be on chain for any kind of reasonable use case. But what you can do is have a model be off chain, provide economic guarantees around the provision of that model, and then have the agentic workflow itself be on chain. So just the set of steps that an agent is taking to deliver a certain outcome. And then the role that we play as an organization, again, is that orchestration of the off-chain inference to the on-chain workflow. This was very intentional on our part. There were multiple factors to consider. There was speed of execution. There was, how useful this would be for all these different use cases. We list a bunch of different use cases of what you can do with the Nexus framework in the Nexus white paper. But I think that was the biggest consideration, right? Is we thought about application first, use case first. If we build this technology, if we build this stack, what kind of agents can you create with this stack, and how is it improved over the existing AI agent frameworks and the kind of agents that you can create with existing frameworks? So we chose to build a technology that we felt enabled a new kind of application.
Yeah, and I saw that you guys basically categorize the Talus agents to 0 to 3 spectrum. Can you explain the spectrum? What does that mean exactly? What is 0? What is 1? What is 2? What is 3?
Yeah, so
that was basically what I was talking about with the different versions of a system. Like you could have an entirely centralized system that all lives in one database. You can have a system where you have a workflow that is querying the chain, is asking something on chain, and the interface is something very simple and like an EOA on Base, for a virtual agent.
So basically the Talus agents are type 2.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, now I get it. It's a little bit around to wrap my head because everything is so new in this crypto and AI intersection. You're deployed on Sui. Why Sui? Why did you choose Sui over other L1s? I mean, what unique value does it bring to this architecture? I know Sui is kind of viewed like a GameFi L1, and you want to bring a more like some more AI into the Sui ecosystem?
Yeah, I'll start a little bit about my background. So I got into crypto around the same time as a lot of people during DeFi summer, when you had, you know, the birth of all these new DeFi primitives that we kind of take for granted today, but like Uniswap and Aave, and these were really cool new innovations in financial technology, and that led me to other L1 ecosystems, and I looked at all of them. I looked at, you know, back when the Terra Luna, all of the Luna was its own ecosystem, and I looked at Algorand. The professor at my school was big in working at Algorand, and, you know, looked at Cardano, looked at like XRP, and in all of these the L1s that existed in the 2020, you know, the 2020 cycle. And I found Solana really early on. I was very fortunate to find the Solana ecosystem. I thought that Solana was a really cool builder space. It had a good community. You know, of course, after 2021 going into 2022, Solana had a huge drop in price, and then the community rallied, and like it's a really good community. It's one of the best communities in Web3 today.
Yeah, but that happened because
chain,
of
L1 or
FTX
L2.
and a lot of other factors that don't
Yeah,
really
exactly,
have nothing
exactly.
to do with
There were. It certainly wasn't perfect. Look, I was on Solana in like the, you know, the Saber days and the, you know, Serum days. So, you know, that was it. It certainly wasn't perfect, but there were elements of Solana that I identified that I think are what make chains and ecosystems successful. Like, you know, really optimizing for you know, horizontal scaling, for instance, like making sure that you're really cranking compute, making sure. Both horizontal and vertical scaling, you know, making sure that you're cranking compute, making sure that, like, if you add another machine to the network, that you're really improving the power and the throughput of the network. You know, having everything operate on this really cool composable data layer. So yeah, that was all in, you know, speed of execution. All of this was really interesting to me about Solana, and I saw that in Sui. So you know, I think that the number one scaling technique that you need to take seriously as a chain is compute, and just making sure that you're optimizing for parallelization. You can see this in a lot of new chains now. Solana talks about this all the time: increased bandwidth, reduced latency. You know, Monad is now a new EVM L1 that's focusing on parallelizing. In running their own validator set and parallelizing the EVM. Mega ETH, you know, has gotten a lot of attention for being a parallelized EVM in cranking the sequencer. So what was cool about Sui is that Sui turns everything on its head and uses an entirely different ledger model to parallelize. So Sui Move is a part of that. That's the language that Sui uses. But in addition to that, Sui has an object model, whereas every other chain, including Aptos, which is the other move chain, uses an account model. So within Sui, you have this global map of objects to object IDs, and what that allows you to do is identify and express dependency really easily. And so if you can do that, then you can parallelize really quickly. So you have all these transactions that are moving around all over the world on chain, right? And these transactions have to be ordered. This is one of the core functions of a blockchain. This is what consensus does. Within Sui, if you have two transactions that are commutative, meaning that they don't go after contentious state, they're not dependent on one another, then they can be executed in parallel and thrown to validators, basically streamed like a WebSocket, basically. And so that's what makes Sui different. Yeah, there are many things that make Sui different. Okay, there are many things. That is just one technical difference between Sui and other chains, first of all, and second of all, there are many considerations when you choose where to build. Tech is not the only one. You could make a case that tech is not the most important consideration. You know, that may be liquidity or network effects or community or even more important than that. But and I think Sui is improving on all of those fronts. Okay, I think Sui is improving on community. The community is growing. The price of Sui has grown tremendously. huge liquidity inflows from Ethereum. Last time I checked, a plurality of ETH liquidity is bridging out of Ethereum into Sui, more so than any single L2. We have huge stablecoin inflows from USDC. We got native USDC about a year ago. We have huge Bitcoin liquidity from OKX, the X Bitcoin, Lombard. Lombard is a huge partner of ours. Lorenzo. There are a lot of really cool Bitcoin projects building like native on Sui.
Yeah, I know them. They work with Babylon too, right?
Yeah. They work with Babylon. Sui and Babylon had a good partnership. So all of those building blocks are like the building blocks that I saw in Solana. So great tech. The price of the gas token pumped, huge liquidity inflows, huge stablecoin inflows, DEX volume, stablecoin volume on chain increasing. All of these building blocks are how you set up a really successful ecosystem. And so, I highlighted what I think is really cool about Sui and Sui Move, the object model, as it pertains to agents, because like I said, maybe I didn't cover this, but initially we envisioned agents as handling payments. Like an agent would be able to pay your bills for you. An agent would be able to buy something for you.
Makes sense, So
just handle everything about your DeFi experience. And we felt that we identified Sui Move and the object model as being optimal for this payments use case, because you're optimizing for these commutative transactions. But again, there are other building blocks too: community, liquidity, network effects, all this stuff. I think that Sui is doing a great job improving in all of those categories, and I'm really bullish on this ecosystem.
Since you mentioned Solana, did you also consider SVM? I don't know, it's even live yet. SVM, that doesn't work.
We looked at Solana. I love Solana, love that community. I'm going to be going to Mountain DAO next month for a little bit. Only have good things to say about Solana. I think that this was a very nuanced technical decision that we made with Sui, and we're very happy that we made it.
I also want to add to what Ben said initially about leveraging Sui. We've seen that there's a huge upside in leveraging the object-orientedness that Sui brings as a way to coordinate objects over the internet. So when you're building infrastructure and you're thinking about agents, these agents are objects. They need to have capabilities. They need to have ownership systems. They need to have monetization systems, as Ben said, with regards to payment. And we found that Sui serves as this layer where you could build your infrastructure on top of and leverage it as a coordination layer. So you could just rely on specific consensus, have your own validators, also transact and have them be very specific for your use case. And it also enables people to just spin up systems much faster. And the performance of these systems, because Sui has such high performance, is great.
So one quick question, because you mentioned validators. Will Talus Network have its own validators, or will they leverage the Sui validators? I don't know a lot about Sui, so maybe.
Yeah, we will leverage the Sui validator set. Yeah. So right now we plan for our workflows to be on Sui mainnet. Execution will happen on Sui. We of course operate infrastructure that's independent of Sui, which is how we handle orchestration. And as we decentralize our leader node, our orchestrator, that will have additional infrastructure overhead. There's also the concept of tools. So tools are explicit within Nexus. You can have on-chain and off-chain tools. A lot of the, most of the tools will be off-chain. Or by off-chain, not on Sui mainnet specifically. So there is a lot of off-chain infrastructure when it comes to Talus that's external to Sui validator set, but Sui is our coordination layer, meaning that we use Sui for execution. There's another project, I'm sure you've talked to Ika.
Ika, yeah, we run validators. We run validators on testnet for them, formerly D-Wallet.
Yes, formerly D-Wallet. Ika is another project that is using Sui in not exactly the same way, but a very similar way, where you have this infrastructure external, the validator set of this coordination layer that is performing not full Byzantine consensus. I don't want to get too academic here, but it's the idea is that you have infrastructure that's external to the validator set, but Sui is where the execution happens.
Guys, let's get back a little bit to the AI agents, because I don't know, last year when AI agents kind of popped, most of them were scams and people just thought it was gonna be just a narrative that's just gonna fade and just another scam in crypto. But right now, as you said, with your background in DeFi, so this is the most basic one, just automate payments. Plus also you can have meme agents, dating agents. Which one do you think hits hardest first? Which one do you think is gonna catch up first in your ecosystem?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think that a big reason why agents were kind of a flash in the pan in the fall of last year is that they were just attention agents and didn't have any sort of structure around them. What do I mean by that? So AI is this thing that can serve as an attention module, and agents specifically are these modules that you can create infinitely to try to capture people's attention. And I really think that attention is going to be the last scarce resource in an abundant world. In a technologically abundant world, the value that people create is going to be in capturing human attention, right? So, the agents that were created, like we've seen some very successful ones, like the Luna agent on virtuals that streams 24/7. These are really cool concepts. All of the derivatives around those kinds of agents captured people's attention and then lost them really quickly, because you have these infinite opportunities to try to capture people's attention. You need something that retains the user. You need some sort of retention mechanism, and to do that, you need to create a business structure around the agent, right? So once the agent captures someone's attention, is that agent then pushing users to buy something, make a make a purchase, subscribe to something, or in some way capture value? And for us, the way that we view that is through this platform that we're creating called idol.fun. And idol.fun will be, yeah. So we can go into further detail about that, but that to answer your original question, that was the first thing that we're focused on. Is in the past, agents, I think, have had success and then kind of fallen off because you have these agents that capture people's attention, and then there's no reason for the user to keep paying attention to that agent. There's no retention mechanism. So we're very focused on creating a business structure around agents in the AI attention economy,
and actually generating revenue, which most of the companies in crypto or foundations don't really do that.
I think that the main thing is that agents initially, when launched and when this truth terminal rise came upon us, it was mostly about attention and not about utility. And if you don't have utility, you cannot make money out of it. You could just pump a token. So these platforms, they just launched agents with tokens. People were excited because there were novel mechanisms to make money, and then you had all these tokens pump, and then done. But when you start thinking about how agents are going to come into our lives and they're going to make our lives better, you need to have some sort of added value, and that added value is eventually efficiency. You want to have an agent do things for you that you couldn't do before. Have them do it by much cheaper, not having to pay, not even having to put any effort, and even do it much better. So as we build this novel digital economy or novel ecosystem of agents and people building agents, what we're going to see is a massive shift or a massive improvement in what types of business models surround these agents. And that's something that will not only just generate more economical activity for people, but will also enable more types of use cases.
So right now, Talus is in DevNet, right? Do you have any cool AI agents that run and do cool stuff on DevNet, or is it too soon to talk about this?
So we have our framework on DevNet. We have some people around 5-6 teams building on our DevNet right now, building agents, whether it's for DeFi, perps, liquidity balancing, which has been most of the focus right now and what we've seen, because people want to make money and they just build these types of agents. And we've also been working a lot with consumer and gaming agents. People want to build into our initial or consumer platform where you'll have agents play against one another and actually have an out-of-the-box business model for these agents. And that's
the agent versus agent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about Nexus so far, which is the AI agent framework that we're creating. It's one of a kind. It allows you to express agentic workflows on chain and have inference generated off chain. That I think we covered that. But what can you do with that, right? What are we working toward on the application side? In addition to this very low level infrastructure, we're also creating an application called idol.fun that's going to be an AI agent launchpad. So the launchpad side will be very similar to virtuals. You'll be able to come and launch an agent in just a few clicks. Don't need to be a dev or anything like that. It's going to be very easy to launch an agent. But in addition to that, we're going to have games that agents can play against each other, introducing this concept of agent versus agent gaming. And so we think that this is a really cool new use case that blends a lot of different applications that we've seen in the past together, like AI Arena and some a lot of the cool attempts at AI entertainment that we've seen in the past. So, the reason we're building this with Nexus and how Nexus plays into idol.fun in the AVA games is that by having the workflow on chain and the workflow be transparent, you know that the game is fair. So this is a huge problem with online gaming when something is centralized, you have no idea if you're being treated fairly as a user, if the game is rigged, basically. And having the workflow be on chain, you know exactly the steps that the agent is taking to deliver an outcome.
But can you have like a competition between AI agents who brings you the best price to something? But in real life?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a lot of really cool games teed up for agents to play out of the box. And in addition to that, it's a permissionless platform. Anybody can come and create a game. I hope that you come and create a game once the platform is live in the next few months that cranks, that draws in a ton of users and everybody makes a lot of money from it.
Yeah, but if it's something similar to virtuals, I mean, you don't really need so many technical skills, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think that this is really geared for virality because we're working in a lot of factors that I think have been successful in the past in Web3 AI and with gamification. This has the infrastructure that we run. You can think of it like a bit tensor, kind of like you're getting cryptographic guarantees around this AI provision and the deep technology of the AI. On the Launchpad side, this is very similar to virtuals and one of the other million other agent launchpads that we've seen. And then on the gamification side, this is very similar to some of the most viral applications that we've seen in AI, that you get this opportunity to make predictions on something that is unpredictable. So you basically get a chance to watch and participate in an online game. I think we're sitting at the intersection of a lot of really successful trends in Web3 applications.
Who else do you see as your competitor besides virtuals right now?
Well, I don't think that I see really anyone as a competitor, as a direct competitor to Talus, because we're trying something so new. We're building very low level infrastructure on the chain side and on the agent framework side, and then on the application side, we're really trying something new. So I don't really see it like that. I think everything is additive. I think virtuals is fantastic. Have been a fantastic platform, and I hope that they continue to grow.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to see exactly how Talus is gonna come to mainnet. You said this year, right? In Q3?
Yes.
Or Q4.
In
Q4. But I want to know a little bit about you guys on a personal level, because so for me, when I look at the project, I always look at the human being, not at the product directly. I don't know if that makes sense. But in the beginning, AI in crypto, people said it's just going to be a trend, it's just a narrative, it's going to die, AI can live without crypto. And I want to know how do you guys stay grounded, and building, especially in markets that are ups and downs. So
Ben, you were talking about this earlier in one of our calls. Like it's hard to just time the market, right? Like we we've been focused a lot on product and not having to focus on timing the market. Oh, when we're gonna launch? Oh, we're gonna launch when we're ready and we have a product that people are gonna love and use, so we could bring value to our shareholders and users. I don't think that if you operate in a way where you're trying to time the market, you're gonna be successful, because you're gonna either be wrong most of the times and miss opportunities, or just not gonna make it. So
Yeah, you just gotta you can't time the market. You just gotta build something you believe in, that you have conviction in, that you think is gonna add value and serve people. I think that, I mentioned before, I was very into the Solana community early on, like when I was in college, when I was first getting into crypto. I'm about to go to Mountain DAO next month, which is a big a hacker house that they do twice a year in the Solana community. These are like true Solana community members. We recreated something very similar for Sui called Sui Summit that takes place after ETH Denver. So we had the first Sui Summit in Denver last March. It was the first ever Sui community-led event. So by the way, if any Sui community members are listening to this and want to get involved in that, let me know. But on the Solana side, and especially I'm thinking about this since I'm about to go to Mountain DAO, the thing that makes Solana different than other chains, other projects that are building in Web3, is that almost everybody in the Solana community is an app builder. So they're not building infrastructure. There's some great infrastructure projects on Solana. Like I would consider Jito, for instance, an infrastructure product, or like Jupe is pretty much and if does a lot of infrastructure stuff, or there are a lot of infrastructure projects on Solana, but nominally the majority of builders are working on an application, something that has a front end. Like you go to a website and you do something on that website and you have real users, and hopefully you're trying to generate revenue for yourself, right? That's very different than a lot of other ecosystems that you see in Web3 that are just building infrastructure on top of infrastructure on top of infrastructure. That's even true for us. What we're doing in the Sui community. Talus is for sure an infrastructure project. We put most of our effort into creating Nexus, because we think that it's really important that agents are decentralized, and that you can create these cryptographic guarantees around agentic workflows. But after that, we're very focused on building an application on top of our infrastructure, because it's got to be something that draws in users. It's got to be something that people go to a front end and they get excited about, something that they can play with, something that's tangible to them. Or I guess you could say digitally
skin
tangible.
in the game, right? You can.
That's a bit of an oxymoron, but something that's like digitally tangible, something that's very close to the end user. So any infrastructure that you create is to serve a greater purpose, and that greater purpose is the application. We're really focused on that in Talus. I think that's something that has made Solana different as a builder ecosystem, and I see that in Sui as well. I see that most people in Sui, even people creating infrastructure, are really focused on drawing in the end user, getting as close to the end user as possible.
Yeah, and actually being closer to Web2 than crypto native people that are so techy and they need to know a lot of stuff, memorize mnemonics.
That's what's cool about Web 2. That's what, to call it another project. This project gets more love than any freaking project in all of crypto these days. But Hyperliquid, the reason Hyperliquid was successful was because they started app first and they got as close to the end user as possible. That's where the value accrual of Hyperliquid comes from, and is that they generate revenue being very, very close to the end user.
Guys, I really respect your time. I know you're busy folks, and right now basically you're entering the last chapter of the podcast, and we want to wrap things up with some rapid fire questions. So for these kind of questions, just quick top of the mind answers. What are the top 3 most used crypto apps?
I use the most Sui applications, so Aftermath is very good for swapping. I think that they're let's see, what else do I use pretty frequently? I'm waiting on perps. AF perps, when they come out, is going to be really, really cool. I think that will be a game changer. There are two consumer applications. I'll shout out all consumer applications.
Let's go.
On Sui. Okay. Yeah. I think that Aftermath, when they launch perps, will be a game changer for the Sui ecosystem, an absolute game changer. Okay. I think that Double Up, Healthy's project on Sui, Double Up is a really innovative type of application, and I'm pretty bullish on what they're doing. Double Up is an on-chain casino. If you haven't checked it out yet, or if you haven't done anything on Sui, Double Up is a pretty cool place to start, because they have a lot of they're just doing a lot of really cool stuff over there that you don't see on other ecosystems. So AF perps, Double Up, and then I'm really excited for Ika to release. I think Ika is a really cool project. The tech it's very cool cryptography, and the use case that they're going to enable is basically like way better interop than we've had in the past. So I think that Ika is going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to. I mean,
yeah. So Aftermath perps, Double Up, Ika when they go live on mainnet, and then of course idol.fun, which is going to be coming out soon.
What's one opinion you've completely changed your mind in the past year?
Revenue matters. Initially, you would think that just launching a coin or a token or just an empty application would be enough. But I think that nowadays it's very clear that you have to launch something that people really want to use, and a token, and synergize both components.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
we
are shifting to business-wise.
Yeah. I think I always believe that revenue matters. So I won't say something that I changed my mind on, but just something that I honed, that we as a team honed in on in January, is that we need to go really, really hard on building an application. Because, initially I think our thinking was that if we build this really cool infrastructure, people will want to build on top of it, especially if it enables something cool. I think you have to go a step further, and you have to say, if you build really cool infrastructure, you have to validate that infrastructure with some sort of use case that validates the technology that you build. You can build the coolest toy in the world, and if no one plays with it, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
So that's exactly what we're doing. We're building the Nexus framework, and we're going to validate that infrastructure with idol.fun as an application, and hopefully many more applications on top of that.
Any advice to founders that want to start to build either AI agents or in the Sui ecosystem, or just hop into crypto right now and enter this rabbit hole?
Build on Talus. Build using the Nexus framework, and if you're an application dev, launch a game. Be a game master on idol.fun. Launch some ABA games.
Let's go. And guys, before you wrap this up, tell me, where can people follow Talus and actually join the DevNet and play around, read the docs and everything?
Yeah, so follow us on Twitter, Talus Network. We have a website for everything about Talus in terms of documentation, docs.talus.network. You have a form there you could fill in to get onboarded into the DevNet. We'll reach out and help you out as soon as possible. So yeah, and feel free to reach out to us on Twitter or anywhere, and Telegram, and happy to chat and onboard you guys as well.
Guys, you've been great. I really love your energy. I'm really looking forward to see how Q4 is gonna wrap up for Talus Network. Thanks for hopping in, and let's wrap this up.
Thank you, man.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye.
Thank you. Have a great one.